Hi, everybody. Welcome back to RVAsec 2024. That's RVAsec 13 in the 13th year this year at the Marriott Richmond, June 4th to 5th. My next guest, Mr. Ben Haynes. He's the data scientist for Flashpoint.io. Mr. Ben, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thanks, Chuck.
Now, I've been interviewing Flashpoint. I think it was one of my first Black Hat interviews when I started doing Black Hat like 10 years ago. You guys have been around a while, and I remember when you first not maybe when you first started, but when I first became aware of you, you've really just exponentially grown over the years, and I'm really happy to see that success. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I am too, and I've been along for a lot of that ride. And my, mentor and friend Jake, who runs RVAsec, has helped me a lot in that. So I'm really happy to be here talking to you, just as I've seen him talk to you over those years.
Yeah, he was actually one of my very first interviews back at Black Hat. He said, What do you do exactly? I said, well, I just, interview people about their security. He goes, what? I mean, nobody understood what that was back in the day. So he's a great guy. Your topic for your speak is Busting Vulnerability Prioritization Myths. That's a great title. And you're going to cover prioritization and the pitfalls that practitioners may fall into when choosing a prioritization plan. Now, this concept's interesting to me because in IT security isn't everything important in a way, because it's about security, but you can't be simultaneously important and prioritize everything, because then there's no such thing as prioritization. So it's a challenge. Talk to me about how important prioritization is. Proper prioritization.
So, right, you're exactly right. There's so much to look at all the time in life, right? Zooming out from security even, right? We're constantly prioritizing. Especially in the age of the internet and social media and stuff like that. There's just never been more opportunity for where to spend your time and where to spend your money and all that. And we're just constantly making decisions about which opportunities we take, right? Which books we read, which people we spend time with, which chores we do, and all that stuff. And that's certainly very, very relevant in the world of vulnerabilities. At Flashpoint, we've documented over 300,000 vulnerabilities over the years and counting. And how are organizations supposed to even start with that, right? And the answer is prioritization. It's just so important when there's so much around us and so much to look at all times.
Well, here's the $64,000 question. What is good prioritization, or what is how would I say this? What is prioritized prioritization? Is that an oxymoron?
It is funny,
yeah.
Not an oxymoron, but it gets really meta because you have all of these prioritization strategies you can take. And the reality, and I'm maybe spoiling a little bit of the talk, but I think the answer is you take a few of them. You don't just have one strategy. But then the question becomes, which few do I take? And you've reached the point where you're prioritizing your prioritization strategies. So if more than me talks about this, people will have to prioritize who advice to take when talking about prioritizing their prioritization strategies, I guess. So it can get real crazy real quick.
So without giving away Flashpoint secrets, is AI a big component of this sort of thing now? Because, AI could quickly do some statistical analysis and say, you know what, the number one vulnerability is this, therefore you should select 85% of your effort towards that. Or is it that simple? Mm-hmm. It seems more complicated than that.
No, I mean, I definitely think it's more complicated than that. And, as someone who is a data scientist and considers themselves fairly knowledgeable in this area, even in the terms of AI and LLMs and stuff like that, I'm kind of skeptical of their capabilities in a lot of ways. People mistake an AI for, being good at one thing, meaning it's going to be good at a bunch of other things. And they underestimate how hard some things can be, right? But to sort of answer that question, pulling it back to your previous one, like what is good prioritization? It's hard to come up with an answer that's going to be true for everyone. But the reality is that there are some things that I think we would all agree are important. And one of the ones that I'm a big advocate of is transparency, right? So if an AI could give you the correct answer, you can't necessarily know it's the correct answer unless they tell you how it got there. And I would say that like 90-something% of all AI, ML stuff that comes out is like black box, what's called uninterpretable machine learning, right? There is interpretable machine learning you can do, but that's just not what people do, right? And so I think if you want good prioritization, you can't exactly go the AI route, and that's one reason why you can't. Not to say that it can't be helpful, but I don't think that that's the end all be all of all of this.
That's a great analysis. And I'm going to get this wrong, but you probably know about this article. I wrote an article a couple weeks ago. Some guy says that there actually has to be kind of a new law involving physics with data, right? Because data at rest has, kinetic energy. It's sitting there, and then when we act upon the data, it creates something. And I'm getting this completely wrong, but I'm going to send that article to you when I find it. But they're actually trying to develop new laws of physics based on this because there's so much data. And to your point, AI is not the end-all fix that everybody thinks it's going to be, because it's just taken all the things it knows and come up with a logical response, but your intuition's not built into AI. So this is a challenge. And how do you prioritize things? Is it going to come down to real time? That what's in front of me today is my priority because that's what's happening now. And that's not really sustainable. Everybody's going to be burned out in 5 seconds trying to deal with 1 billion attacks a day.
Yeah, I mean, it's the article sounds interesting. My background, my bachelor's was actually in physics and astronomy, so I have a little even more perspective on that. And I think that that's kind of true. The data at rest would have a potential energy, I imagine. And mining that potential is really, really important, right? It's not enough to just have raw data. You need to have really good intelligence, which I think Flashpoint does, which is great. And then you got to use that intelligence in an intelligent way to make decisions, right? So you definitely, take, the atom and you try to split it to create all this great energy. But I think if I'm being pedantic about it, in statistics, there's words for all of that already. I don't think we necessarily need new laws, but it might be helpful to think about those statistical terms in physics terms, more or less, if it's more intuitive to people, which sometimes statistics isn't intuitive to people, and casinos take advantage of that daily, right?
That's true. Listen, my wallet knows that. That's no doubt about that. Now, what are people going to get walking away from listening to your talk? I see data scientists and I say, oh, it might be above my ability to understand. Ben's got that high level stuff, but really sell this to people so they really got to come in and listen to this. I think this is probably one of the most important things we need to do in cybersecurity. Yeah,
I agree. And what I'd say is this. First of all, my title is data science or data scientist, and my interest is data science. But I kind of adhere to a definition of data science that's a lot wider than that, meaning put in systems modeling, put in operations research, and a bunch of other words that you haven't heard of, but you do, right? So operations research is just like, I consider it what prioritization is. It's just saying, hey, I have all these tasks, and these 2 tasks are better than all the others, but neither of those 2 tasks is better than the other one. So the challenge is not separating those 2 from the others. That was the easy part. The challenge is separating one from the other, right? And an analogy we're going to use in the talk that I'll use now is like restaurants, right? You know which restaurants you're not going to go to. The problem is you whittle the list down to maybe 3 that you're interested in, and then you got to make a decision about which 3 in an intelligent and satisfactory way. And that is a kind of operations research question, I'm going to claim. That is not really data science-y, but it's adjacent for reasons that I could get into, but what. So the point of the talk and my hope for the talk is to talk about prioritization in a way that is understandable to anyone, in those terms of like operating, more so than AI and machine learn. We're not going to talk about that really. We're going to talk about the operations. I know certainly, when I go to RVAsec or when I go to a conference, I don't like when I sit in on a talk and I zone out for 15 seconds and suddenly all hope is lost. I have no idea what's going on. I don't know what this person's saying, and it's in a domain I've never heard of. So the last thing I want to do is to leave people like that. I want it to be interesting, engaging, and talk about prioritization in general. Honestly, we're going to use vulnerabilities as an example because we have a really comprehensive database of vulnerability information at Flashpoint, but I don't want to go over anyone's heads. So that's one answer to your question, to calm any concerns anyone might have.
Excellent, my friend. Ben Haynes, Flashpoint.io, data scientist, talking about busting vulnerability prioritization myths. during his talk at RVAsec 13, the Marriott Richmond, June 4th to 5th, 2024. Mr. Ben, I can't make it in person this year. I wish I could, but good luck to you, my friend, and maybe we'll meet next year.
Yep. It was nice talking to you, Chuck.